Recently, our lovely producer Kathy and I got to interview the writer and director for the animated Origins short films for the Wheel of Time for Amazon Prime Video. It was so much fun, and I can't wait for you to hear what they had to say. Let's go take a look. Hello everybody, I'm Thom, and welcome to Dragonmount. Make sure to follow us on all of our social medias, like, subscribe, all the good stuff. And make sure to check out our Patreon. There's always some fun little tidbits in there for you. So recently, producer Kathy and I got to interview Rammy Park and DeFelice, the writer and director for the Wheel of Time Origins short films that are on Amazon Prime Video. Those Origins shorts are animated entirely. Absolutely gorgeous. I love the animation style. You can find them if you scroll down just alongside the extras for the Wheel of Time show on the Amazon website or through their app. Rammy Park is, of course, the writer for the Origin short films, but she's also writing season 2 and currently in London working on season 3 with Rafe Judkins, the showrunner. And DeFelice is the director for the Origin short films.
All right. First off, thank you so much for joining us today. We know you have got to be extremely busy. So taking some time out of your day, we're so happy that you're here hanging out with us and the rest of the Dragonmount family. What was your gateway into filmmaking with this project in particular? Can you think of a particular moment or memory that made you think, this is for me?
Yeah, I mean, I was approached in March of last year, and I think, it was just the first couple scripts, and it was actually my introduction to Wheel of Time as well. So just seeing the kind of, the early scripts and where my mind went with that, and then where, just starting to read the books, actually. I kind of felt, I don't know, I just felt a connection to the material. And so I felt I could do something special and just, yeah. So, I mean, that was kind of like the initial moment. And then the sort of the ability to kind of steer things was really amazing from the Amazon crew. So it was, it was a pretty early on process that I kind of felt really connected to everything.
Amazing. What about you, Rammy?
Well, yeah. So I've always been a big fantasy reader and lover since I was a little girl. I grew up in a big family, and it was my way to sort of get away from everything that was going on around me, sort of a literal room of one's own kind of energy there. And that sense of kind of escape and exploring other worlds was always something that was really important to me. But I'd never gotten into the Wheel of Time, actually. I knew about it. It was just maybe there was something about it that was daunting because it's so long,
so many,
so many, and so many of my gateways to other fantasy books were like other friends or other people who were like recommending this, recommending that, and I think those paths just never crossed for me until a couple of years before I started working on the show, when I was staying at an Airbnb with some girlfriends, and The Shadow Rising happened to be on one of the shelves of the Airbnb, and I was literally I'm like totally one of those people who goes on vacation, gets an Airbnb, and then goes straight to the bookshelf and like doesn't leave the house.
Obviously.
And so I picked up The Shadow Rising and started reading it. I was like, I need to get into this series. Like I've been sleeping on this series. So then when I had the opportunity to actually go up for writing on the show, it was very, very important to me, and I did everything I could to try and put myself out there and manifest, and thankfully it worked out, and I started on season 2 in the writer's room.
All right, so since you guys, I guess you've been introduced to Wheel of Time relatively recently, is there anything in particular about the Wheel of Time that you like or that interests you or that you find like particularly intriguing? I guess we'll go with Dan first, and then Rammy.
Yeah, I think that for me, that the thing that especially sets it apart against other fantasy franchises, whatever you want to call it, is Age of Legends, because it's really like the idea that there's this like a sophisticated sci-fi society or like advanced utopic society that then crashes. It really, I think it speaks to culture in a different kind of way than maybe other fantasy does. So for me, that's like the one thing that's like all right, like, and to be honest, I'm like, I wish we could do more Age of Legends, you know, because it's like it's really, I think it's what's so special about it, and that society has started, you know, there was like a start over.
Yeah.
I think is really interesting.
See how far they fell from perfect utopian sci-fi almost.
Well, it's also like, you know, it's not to this extreme, but it's a bit like, you know, sticks and fire and, you know, hunt animals.
I mean, yeah.
And build up from nothing, you know, from 3,000 years. So it's, or for 3,000 years. So it's, I think it speaks to society in a much different kind of way than a lot of other fantasy.
Yeah. And what about you, Rammy? Is there any like particular part of the Wheel of Time that you latched? So you read it before you became part of the project. Is there any? So you came into it as a fan first, which is cool. So is there any, you know, like particular aspect of the Wheel of Time that you liked or that you latched onto early on?
One of the things that I really love is how connected it feels to our world and our culture. And, you know, how I know Robert Jordan looked at so many different cultures all over the world to sort of draw inspiration. And there is something about these stories that, unlike a lot of other high fantasy stories, which I love, it feels very rooted in the world that I live in, weirdly. And so I think that's the piece that felt very personal and surprising when I got into the books.
Yeah, something I like to say a lot when we do panels and stuff is like Robert Jordan kind of stealth taught a whole group of people about, you know, real world mythologies and traditions of different cultures and peoples from all over the world. It's really cool. And actually, Michael Livingston has a book coming out soon that's called Origins of the Wheel of Time, and it literally goes into all of the mythologies.
I'm dying to get my hands on a copy of that. Advanced copy. Can anybody help me?
Tor, yeah, we got to get to Tor.
On that.
Yeah, well,
Origins, come
on.
Exactly.
Yours.
Tor sponsors us. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah, we'll work on that. We'd love to know a little bit more about the very distinctive and absolutely gorgeous stylistic choices that were created for Origins and how it's evolved over the season. Especially like the writing for it is very specific, super tight. Like you have 3 minutes and like that's it, and you have this whole world. And then the like visuals are so striking and so particular, and we just want to know, I mean, all about it. We'll spend 15 minutes talking on it, but
for real, I love the art. I want the art on everything. Like I just want it's so great, especially the Tarvalon library. I absolutely love that depiction.
Isn't it so dreamy?
I want to just be in there so bad.
No, I mean, like it all came back to artists, just basically like the idea of like casting painters that you know, fit the aesthetic, fit kind of what I kind of had in my mind a bit, as well as, you know, just something that's not too, dare I say, like high fantasy. Like there's a lot of rules, like I said no, it's called God rays, you know, when there's like big shafts of light. I was like, no God rays, no fairy dust. I'm like, there's a certain, you know, kind of grittiness and mood and texture that we were after. So it's trying to find painters that fit that aesthetic. And then ultimately it was trying to bring those paintings to life. So it was a pretty basic process on the top, but it was, you know, it was really difficult just in terms of like the technicality side of it. There's just a huge, and shout out to all the painters and animators and everyone, but like just a huge team from MPC, but then all these like freelancers globally, to be honest. I mean, we had just like kind of a 24-hour clock going just on paint, because it's just trying to find the right person that's actually available, and, you know, trying to bring them on for, you know, 6 months, 9 months to a year, and actually just, you know, see what they can do, see what they can bring to it, and then kind of steer them into it. So yeah, it was a really, it was a pretty massive process. And then character design and all of that was a sort of secondary type thing, or separate element as well. But yeah, it's been a real journey though.
What about you, Rammy? What about the very key parts of the writing, like finding that balance on how to tell just enough, but not too much, but also like, even though you have different narrators and different characters that speak, like how did that how did you create those words? It seems so like, where did you find the word? Like, but like, it's very distinctive, the writing for these short films.
Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you. I'm somebody who needs to write from a place of like real feelings, like real vulnerability, real feelings. And so, there were a couple of parameters for what these origins needed to be. Like, for one, they needed to be short. So like, I already knew I had to do a lot in 2 to 3 minutes. I knew that they needed to connect thematically and tell the quote unquote origin story of something that had been brought up in the main show. So that was another consideration. But beyond that, it was a pretty open palette. And so I think part of coming to it as a newer reader that was really helpful was I had a really good sense of, what would somebody who's new to it want to know about it that we're not going to be able to talk about in the main show, but what is also for somebody who is a long-term fan or reader, like what's going to feel really emotional to see on screen, like what's going to be the thing, like the Tar Valon library, or like what is going to be something that we've imagined in our minds and haven't seen in the main show, but it's just going to like give us all the feelings. So those were kind of the check boxes I was trying to hit with each idea that I was coming up with.
Amazing.
Okay. So I guess, and this could, I slightly different for both of you, but same kind of question is, going into what you just said, the collaborative process that you guys have with like the live action team and, what you guys are doing on Origins, is there like what's the process that you guys go through for like choosing the topic that you want to tell in the origin stories? For the the writing sense, I guess, but also the stylistic and art, trying to stay telling, depicting the same thing, not drifting too far from each other. So I guess we'll start with Rammy this time, since we could change it up a little bit.
Well, the great thing about the writing for the origins is because of those parameters, it gives me an opportunity to come up with a couple of pitches for each, episode of like, here's what we could do. And then we work with a producer from Amazon named Craig, one of the EPs of the main show, Mike Weber. And then the great thing about being in the room is I can just turn to Rafe and be like, what do you think of this one? And his sign off is ultimately the sign off, especially because he has plans for what kind of stories might be told in later seasons that I don't have access to. So I don't want to ruin anything or spoil anything. And then finally, a key piece of the writing under the puzzle is of course Sarah Nakamura. Once I've written the script, she gets it along with the other 3 people that I mentioned, and everybody kind of has to just be like, this, we feel good about this. And I always feel good when Sarah's like, yeah, this works. I'm like, okay. A big part of Origins is, really, sticking very close to canon and finding a way to like take it back to the writing, take it back to the books. Like everything that we're trying to do is either coming from the books or from the companion, or something that Robert Jordan himself has said or written. So that's always, what we're trying to go back to in a way of servicing sort of the main show, and finding a way to do that.
Well, I for what it's worth, in my opinion, you've done a great job with that. I absolutely love it. I think you're telling great stories with those.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then I guess so in the same vein, like art, artistically wise and your depictions wise, how is that how do you collaborate with the live action show team?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a spill down. So we kind of receive a lot of material from the main show. Obviously, anything that's kind of like, Tar Valon or anything that's kind of like, connected to our episodes. But it is, at the end of the day, it's a different medium. It's a complete, so if we just went 1 for 1 with like painting over live action, then I would just go to the sets, shoot it, and then paint over the live action. But, we're making an animated series. And so for me, it's always been a testing ground. I'm like, slip in something a little bit different. They're like, oh, that looks cool. And it's just this idea, like, how far can we push it really? Not for pushing its sake, but ultimately to make something that feels honest to animation and, to motivate if we're going to do it with animation, let's do it like an animated series. not traditional kind of cell animation, but just if we're going to go down this route of like beautiful paintings kind of coming to life, then there needs to be a reason that we're doing that as opposed to live action. And so I think architecturally some things differ, characters and kind of environments and all of that. The idea is to create something that feels still derived from the main show, and it feels connected but different at the same time. So it has like its own sort of unique voice, but always, like to Rammy's point, it's always kind of connected to something from, one of the episodes, and it just always feels connected and of the main show. So I think a couple, I know of a couple, one or two other shows that have done something. It's like a spin-off series into animation. So, but this is like one of the first ones that I know of, at least, that's like connected on the sort of more episodic. So it is a little like it's a testing ground too. We're like, seeing how far we can push it, and how close does it need to be, how far apart, and so yeah, it's been like that part of it's been a journey too, which is cool. There's a lot of trust from Amazon, and ultimately, like if we're making something great that's true to canon, beautiful, like most likely it's going to just get like a big thumbs up and everyone's excited.
Yeah, I think it does a great job telling a part of a story that might be not fleshed out completely in the show, while so you can inform a new viewer, but also for, again, personally, it's a great thing to see as someone who has read the series for 20 plus years. It's a ton of fun to watch, and I think it does a great job for both of those aspects.
The tourist and the purist. It's like it's all about this duality of having, like, for me, I care more about new. I'm probably because I'm a new book reader. So because the fans ultimately, there's nothing new that we're doing that they don't know about. So ultimately it's just seeing it come to life. So for people new to the series, if Origins can help them come in a different kind of vantage and see the main series in a different way, then I think for me it's successful. I know the fans, no, I don't know, but I hope the fans love it. But I'm also really hoping that, that people new to the series will start reading the books. Oh, that's I didn't catch Saidin and Saidar, and it's a small thing, but it's interesting to see some of the stuff that the main series just doesn't have time for ultimately, and hopefully to get new fans in. So
absolutely. So we're looking at where in the timeline of the world do these origin stories come from? So are they story time in the let me preface this with, there's a theory that they're from the Fourth Age, and for example, the White Tower is being rebuilt after the events of the books in the show.
I love it.
Is there a set part in the timeline that you can share about where these come from, or kind of what?
Or are we going to get our first waffo?
Yeah.
It's a real waffo situation. I can neither confirm nor deny, but I do love that theory.
Oh my God, I love it.
Welcome to the Wheel of Time community world. Yeah. When you have several years in between books, you have a lot of time to rise and build those. All right, we'll move on.
That's my first waffle, so thank you for that.
Yay!
Marie and Harriet used to hand out cards. Might be something to look into. So Daniel Henney, when you guys were at San Diego Comic-Con, mentioned that he used motion capture for the Malkir episode that you guys did. So is motion capture something that you only utilized for his episode, or are you going to utilize it again? And then I guess, was it particularly hard to did you use it because Daniel's face is just so amazingly gorgeous and it was so hard to have an artist recapture it that you needed to use motion capture? No, really though, did you find any kind of advantages for using motion capture versus just straight artistic?
So with Daniel, basically that whole episode 7 and 8, we did performance capture, but it was really, we had the dots on the faces, but ultimately ended up just being just really good reference that our animators kind of went back. We have done motion capture. Okay. We actually did it on The Greatest Warder because there was so much sort of fight sequences, choreography between two characters that it just kind of gave us that extra, it just pushed our start line way ahead in terms of timings, beats, and all that stuff, and rather than trying to build it up from storyboard into animatic to previs, like the layers. So doing it in motion capture was super helpful. But honestly, getting like, for me, I come from more of a live action background, and I love having like an actor's face to work with, even if you're gonna like, especially with Lan, because he's quite, and Daniel performed in this way, but Lan's quite succinct in like what he does. He's quite, he's quite stoic, which I love, because it's like when his humor comes out, it's like just in these like really great, like off the cuff kind of moments. So with Daniel and that performance, it was very much about trying to capture his performance and give our animators like a really good start point. There is conversations about other seasons and whatnot, and motion capture is something that is on the table. But ultimately, it's like, from an aesthetic perspective, I want to stay away from anything that's too uncanny valley. That feels like, kind of feels human, kind of doesn't. Because, when it comes back to the paintings, it has this sort of aesthetic to it that doesn't necessarily feel like, real humans acting in a suit projected through a sort of, CG character. So it's just like a technique aesthetic thing that, we're definitely looking into. And the thing I personally love is just like real performances and connecting to characters. So it's a big evolution. It's always on the table. There's a lot of tools at our disposal, so it's always figuring out what's best for each episode.
Cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
If you both could choose one more episode, so surprise, season 1 is going to have episode 9. And you can do whatever you want. What story would you pick or want to tell? Was there something that you wish you could have done?
Remy?
You can say no. I can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Again,
because that sounds like we
answer.
might be able to do it in season 2.
Right.
Actually, I think I can hypothetically say, because because each of these origins are very much inspired by a concept that's introduced in an episode from the main show. I love that cold open in the finale between Luce and Latra, and doing something that feels like an origin rooted in the Age of Legends would have been pretty exciting.
Yeah, any art that depicts Age of Legends is just super interesting to me.
Yeah. I'm not far enough in the books to have the full gamut. So right now where I'm at, I'm like dying to get into Aiel territory.
Yeah.
So I don't have a story yet. I do, what is it, like Gaishan or something like that?
Ooh, just you wait, Dan.
Yeah.
Just you wait.
I'm so excited for you, Dan.
Oh yeah. I love being able to live through people as they're discovering the Wheel of Time for the first time. It's so great.
Yeah. But just
also, like, for you to choose that word is like so hot button.
Yes.
Because it's like, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like that sort of Native American, like touching someone in battle, like that to me is like, it's the foundation of an absolutely amazing story. And I don't know if they go into it to that level in the books, or if it's just kind of hinted at or what. But yeah,
read and find out.
Yeah, read and we get to raffle him. It's fantastic. No, that aspect, that dichotomy of like, the Aiel are so violent, while at the same time, like the height of their combat prowess would be to cause no, harm to their enemy is really interesting. That is cool.
any kid can kill, but
I
love that.
Yeah.
I love it. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm sure it'll evolve as I keep reading.
So are there any other projects that either of you are working on that you have in the pipeline that you're, other than the Wheel of Time that you can talk about?
For me right now, it's all wheel all day.
Okay.
I'm in London right now, working on season 3 of the main show, and continuing to see what we can do with Origins. So that's plenty for me at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What about you, Dan?
For me, it's like a nice lull after season 1 of Origins. There was a lot of conversations about other Origin like stuff. So we're just in those conversations now. And then I've always got the little like side hustle of commercials and bidding on that kind of stuff. So I do a lot of commercial projects too. So
Okay.
nothing fancy, you know, out there yet.
Just the like best art rendering for one of the best like fantasy series
ever. Yeah.
You know, that's all. No big deal. No big deal.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you both so much for again taking time. We just loved spending time with you, and we can't wait to hopefully talk to you when season 2 comes out.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes, good luck.
Pleasure.
And we were loving everything you do. Keep up the absolutely amazing work.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It was so nice talking to you all.
Thank you.
All right, and that was the interview. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from you. Please leave all your comments below. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share this around if you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.
And that's our show. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, please subscribe, hit the like button, give us a thumbs up, or leave us a comment. We love comments, especially positive ones. And if you have any friends that are interested in the Wheel of Time, please share some of our videos with them. And as always, a huge thank you to our sponsor, Tor Books, as well as our amazing Patreon community. And if you are interested in learning about how more of the show is made or some Wheel of Time insights, you too can become a member of the Patreon community. And as always, follow us on Dragonmount with social media. And thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye-bye.